So it looks like we're all in. So I'm going to start. My name is Nava Milliken, for those of you who don't know me, and I am the Artistic Director of the Center for Art in Wood. And as you know, the center has been closed because of the pandemic. And so that caused us to start something really exciting called the Woodshed, which is not only a series of virtual programs like the ones we're enjoying tonight, but also a number of activities and interactive content and tours and talks and shop tours and a coloring book that's downloadable and demos and all kinds of really fun stuff. So I invite you to check it out. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Center for Art in Wood, we are a small museum located in Old City, Philadelphia. We have programs including changing exhibitions roster. We have a permanent collection numbering over 1,100 objects and growing. And we offer an international residency program for professional artists and researchers. We also host a number of programs and events, hands-on and lecture-based, like the one we're going to be enjoying tonight. So please check back in with us. Also, I'm very, very thrilled to announce that as of July 16th, the center is open to visitation. So 3 days a week. So I encourage you to come by and visit if you're in the area and take a look at the permanent collection and also our current exhibition, Humaira, a Bead Searching for Home, which has been extended until early October. So if you haven't seen it already, now's your chance for the next couple of months. So with no further ado, I do want to introduce tonight's speaker, Roy Underhill, to my right at the top of the screen. I'm going to give you a short synopsis of his very long and impressive biography. Roy Underhill is an American woodworker and a television show host. He grew up in Washington, D.C., and he was the first master housewright at the Colonial Williamsburg reconstruction. Since 1979, he was the host of the PBS series, The Woodwright's Shop. Along with This Old House, which debuted the same year, it was the longest running PBS how-to show. And if you haven't seen it, you absolutely must check it out. It's available on the PBS website, and it is chock full of information and also some wonderful music, which Roy's daughter is responsible for. Roy was introduced to traditional woodworking by his sister, who worked at the Smithsonian Institution. He studied at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and earned a degree in theater. And in the early 70s, Roy and his wife moved to Colorado to form Homestead Arts, an acting studio, and then moved to a remote area of New Mexico, where traditional woodworking was one of the few means of survival there. Shortly after that, Roy moved back to North Carolina and studied at Duke University, pursuing a multidisciplinary course of study, including engineering, forestry, and history. He was awarded a Master of Forestry in 1977. When his first daughter was born, he approached the UNC Center for Public Television with an idea about a traditional woodworking show. Initially rejected, the idea was finally accepted, and then that is the beginning and the launch of the Woodwright's Shop, which was filmed at West Point, Leno, and Durham, North Carolina. At the same time, he took the job as Master Housewright and later Director of Interpretive Development for Colonial Williamsburg. More recently, Roy is also a communications consultant. He is the author of several books, including the Woodwright's Eclectic Workshop and Woodwright's Shop, a practical guide to traditional woodcraft. In 2011, he gave a presentation at TED Talks Rally, sharing the value of ingenuity living in the present. And that's a really fun talk too, so you should check it out. Roy has been teaching traditional woodworking in a classroom environment he calls, of course, the Woodwright School. As of January 2014, the classroom is located in Pittsboro, North Carolina. Many hand tool aficionados hold Roy Underhill in extremely high regard and may refer to him as Saint Roy, which I love. So I'm just so thrilled to welcome Roy to the Woodshed tonight. And if you didn't get notice of this already, I did invent a signature cocktail for tonight in honor of one of the signs that was featured in Roy's, the Woodwright's shop. It's called Absinthe Makes the Heart, which I believe connects to the Fangroch chair that you had as part of the set in the Woodwright's shop, and here it is today. So with that warm welcome, I give you Roy Underhill. Thank you so much for joining tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for, just want to check, is everything working technically all right? Seem to be able to hear and see as we hope?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, good. Just checking in. Always a good idea to see that before you talk too long to see everything. Thanks so much for having me. I'm a little intimidated with the Center for Art in Wood because I'm barely a craftsman, although I play one on TV. So that's my qualification to be here. But anyway, thanks for letting me join you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
I thought you could first share, you know, I gave your official bio, but I thought you could kind of share a little bit from your point of view, how you came to the field of woodworking, and also your distinctive approach of using tools that are generally regarded as, you know, hand tools or more ancient tools.
Well, I've just always worked wood since I was a kid, always enjoyed making things. And I was just lucky that I was able to, through perhaps lack of other opportunities, able to continue it through my life. And as a student, after coming back from New Mexico, living on a commune way up in the mountains there where we were way off the grid, and working at the School of the Environment at Duke, the combination of environmental responsibility, the off-the-grid hand tools, these muscle-powered tools, just like bicycles, really started to make sense. Well, this was 40, 50 years ago. We were just getting tuned into the problems with the atmosphere and warming. And so it all made a connection for me. It was also a good niche to be in. The hand tools just, well, they certainly have an appeal, as I hope you'll see as we talk today. But I want to say also, I look at the items in your collection, the wonderful things that people have made, I mean, objects of great beauty, art in wood. That's not what I do. It's like having, how should I say, Bob Ross. Remember The Joy of Painting? Everybody remember Bob Ross, the happy little tree in the middle of the meadow?
Who could forget?
Yeah, that's who could forget, St. Bob. Bob Ross, you know, his idea, his work was sharing his joy of painting, and I share the joy of woodworking. His work was to say that you can do this. This is a part of you. This is something that you can do. And it's deep inside you. And that's what I do, is try and get people connected back with something that they have evolved with. As just being a human being on planet Earth, you're a woodworker. You evolve this way. Your language, your culture, your body, everything evolved around millennia of working wood. So let's just try and stay connected. Maybe it's a good thing. So that's what I do. There you go.
Well, that's exactly what we're about too. So I think.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
We're honored to have you here. I just, I mean, I say often when I'm speaking to people about the center, how wood and human technological development are married in many ways, and wood being one of the first materials that humans learned to manipulate and to develop tools in order to manipulate. So that long, many years of history must be innate in us somewhere.
Absolutely. I teach a very an introductory class where I have folks start with a log. I think there's one sitting over here, but they start with a section of walnut. And usually when I'm working with the class and setting up things, I say, well, I wonder how the students will do today. But when I bring in a walnut log and they cut it into pieces and rive it out, they split it, they start working it down to make bench hooks. I've got some here. Well, whatever they, yeah, I think I got one. Yeah, so here's one left by one of the students. They make these, a pair of bench hooks from a walnut log. But on the path to get there, when I'm looking at that log, I'm thinking, what is this log gonna teach the students, not what the students are gonna do to the log. I see the grain and the knots and the moisture content. And I look at just thinking, what are the lessons the students are gonna learn? And I've got all these, every bench in this school, the 10 benches, each has a little section of log on it. And I've got 10 extra teachers with me. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so just to be very clear about what happens at the school, there are no power tools involved, is that correct?
No, there's one. There's, after I leave, there is a Roomba that comes out. And this is the hardest working Roomba in America, I gotta say. If I could figure out a way to make it steam powered by having it burn sawdust, boy, we'd be all set.
You'd have something there.
Yeah, see, but no, they call me crazy. I don't know.
And so one of the things that really struck me when I watched your TED Talk, and I mentioned this to you in our correspondence, is the first conversation that I heard, or the first talk that I ever heard, where David Pye and who was it else were mentioned in the same talk. I think it was Shakespeare. And this guy's really special, and we need to talk to him more, because anyone who can knit those two kind of literary traditions together is talking our language.
Oh, I love it. Well, that's part of it. And that's what I really enjoy immensely about this, is connecting the, in fact, I should say that I used to love the old television series Connections, and Bronowski really tuned me into this. But how all of culture is just interwoven, and the language, the literature, just brilliant. In fact, of all things, I was looking at Pepys' diary from the 17th century. So there's Pepys, wrote the famous diary that we know so much about, 17th century London life. And he was talking about during the plague, he was doing some home repair at his house. He was hanging a picture, he's driving a nail, and he hit his thumb so badly that his wife about passed out, seeing how bad. And so anyway, just thinking, here we are during the virus shutdown, and everybody doing home repair and fixing up around the house and getting hurt. And same thing with Samuel Pepys in the 1600s. So all those connections are just delightful all the way through.
And has being, experiencing this time like we all are in our own way, brought any of those insights particularly to light to you as someone who is thinking about the ancients and the present?
Well, let me just say, the effect it's been rough. Let me just say, if we were to look around, you'd see all my workbenches have plastic sneeze guards around them. Mm-hmm. And I had everybody in here working with masks on. And it just doesn't, it's not a satisfactory environment to work in. So one thing I just learned is how important what we're missing is. The human contact, the being able to get close and touch things and say, you know, point to things, handle, you know, let me hand you this tool. Can't do that. All those things we took for granted, how important they are. That's been the big one. It's not a cheery one, I will say.
Do you see, I was gonna save this question for the end, but I'll throw it out now before you start your tour. Do you have immediate thoughts about how this will impact not only craft, but also research and the theory behind craft and conceptualization of craft and design going forward in the ways that, I mean, I can think about how 9/11 affected the way artists worked, and then how the market crash in 2008 really gave launch to this whole maker, what we call tritely the makers movement now. And do you have any predictions or thoughts about how makers in particular are going to come out of this?
You know, we have one thing here that is booming here at the school. Up above me, there is a big tool store. Ed Lebitkin runs a vintage antique tool store, and he is supplying the world. Folks are really anxious to, if this is a real barometer of what folks are up to. People are wanting hand tools, vintage tools that are working, and just like Samuel Pepys, they're working at home. So I think it's just going to be a much bigger movement of people's manual dexterity, I should say. People are going to be making more stuff at home, just, well, the obvious thing. Yeah, we've got more time at home, so I expect it'll boom. That's what I think.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think so. I think it will work. Just gotta.
Well, let's see what you've got in your shed.
I brought show and tell here.
Yeah, from our wood shed to your Woodwright's shop.
Yeah, and then let me show you. Let's look at that thing back there. You see the move so you can see a little better the chair back here. That is one of my favorite things to do. Again, in connections, is this is of course. Let me say it like I was taught to say it. Vincent van Gogh. His famous chair from Arles, from the Yellow House. And that is the replica of it. So making connections like that, just a favorite bit of my work. Now, I learned from a British magazine, Quercus, a woodworking magazine of green woodworkers or you know, more organic woodworkers, that this is making these Van Gogh chairs it's huge in Japan. People will get together and make 100 of these chairs in celebration of this famous painting by Vincent. So that's just a delight to me, those connections. Let me see what else I have here. I take a look at this. This was donated to the school, a German plane. So this is a scrub plane. It has a big, heavy cambered iron down here to really take off a lot of wood. It's in the German style with the horn. What's wonderful about it is what you see right there. You see how the fingerprints, the workman's fingers have worn into the wood of the plane. And over here you can see where the thumb went right there. And so just see that, and how the bottom, this was parallel on the bottom. It's much thicker back here at this end than it is down at this end now. So it's worn down. And this is something that David Pye talked about, was the craftsman, the artisan making things to last. And that kind of fights back against mortality. In other words, this had to be made in order to get these fingerprints worn in here. This had to be originally made well enough that it would last long enough for the fingerprints to wear in. Longevity in an object, durability is one of the aspects of artisan, of workmanship that Pi spoke of. Right. And it's just magical to handle these things. Now, here's another connection there. There's that German plane. This is, of course, Albrecht Dürer's Melancholia, the intellect, I believe it is. It's Melancholia I, it says up there. But it's the creative spirit, one might interpret it in this way. The creative spirit surrounded by all the tools of design, the tools of craftsmanship, the saw, the plane, the hammer. He's got cubes for engineering, a magic square up here that adds up. So he's got mathematics, he's got time, he's got everything. Knowledge. And yet this androgynous figure, just despairing of inspiration. So the bummed out artist. And then, of course, down at the bottom is that plane in the German style that you see. Just great stuff. Fun. Let's see, what else? You have any? Oh, can I show you one that, this one's kind of loaded here, of all things. Well, it is, politically. This is a bow saw. Mm-hmm. I just want you to see the chamfer work on this. A little hard to see. I'm going to try and move it so you know what I mean. So there you go. You see, look at that. It's like the prow of a Viking ship, like a bow that Odysseus would have used. Just this incredible, brilliant curve. Like Mozart, you say, take away one piece more, it'd be diminished. Add another piece, it'd be too much. Just perfect chamfer. And it's just this utilitarian item, but something in it is so well balanced that it's Homeric, it's lyrical.
Oh, but there is a
beautiful thing.
There is a marriage of function and ornament in this piece. I mean, there is a functional reason for that curve.
Yes. It could be straight though. You could make it straight, but it's not. It's not. It's just wonderful. And friend, let me see if I have another one.
One question, Roy.
Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned that it had a kind of political charge.
No, it does. Yeah, this and these is a bunch of tools that was given to me just last year to deal with, and it's kind of a hot potato in that these are the tools that belong to the man, Mr. Cummings, who did the work for the new house that was built at Washington University in Lexington, Virginia, when Robert E. Lee went to become the president of Washington, what later became Washington and Lee University. Now that's the reason it survived now, the reason that tool survived and all the other tools, I just have all the tools that this joiner, he did all the windows, the doors, the floors, cornice work, everything he did for this house, which had to be custom built because Robert E. Lee's wife was crippled with arthritis, rheumatism, and she had to really live on one floor with a big veranda. Well, we have his book that tells what he did every day. So we have the book from that year, 1868, when he built that house. Lee died a few years later after they moved in. And it's just this wonderful window into and artifacts from a joiner's work in mid-19th century. The only reason it survived is because the people at the time thought, you know, usually these are lost, but they thought, oh, you know, your great grandfather, he did all this work for General Robert E. Lee. We got better save that. That's important. So because they thought he was important at the time, that's why these artifacts survived. So now do you see why it's a hot potato?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed.
But I'm glad that it's in your care as an historian and
Yeah.
as somebody who is a caretaker and of tools and a user of tools.
Yeah, it's a workman. Yeah, and it just survived on tools survived by accident. You know, I tell a story about how at Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg, we're trying to work in the totally 18th century tools and everything, right? And I had axes made for us based on the archaeological finds that they had in the area of axes that were found in the bottoms of wells. And God, I mean, they were terrible axes. We worked and worked with them until finally realized what we had duplicated, what we had replicated were the axes that people were throwing down wells in 1770. So they may have been the worst axes of the time, or the axes that belonged to the idiots of the 18th century. But there's accidents why things survive. You never know.
Yes, wow. Well, that's a risk of being an archaeologist.
Yeah, things survive because they're extraordinary in some way, extraordinarily bad, extraordinarily good, or in this case with the Lee tools, associated with someone who was considered very important at the time. So that survived, and it's a good thing, but it's a hot potato.
Yeah.
So let's see what I have. A few other things here. Gosh, wonderful. Let me show you this. I do this a lot with my students here. Make these. This is the Rubo book stand. Now, Andre Rubo was, he invented the comfy chair. Anything. He worked at Versailles and really invented the comfort, the sofa, the couch, the comfortable chair, and illustrated in Rubo's Art of the Joiner is this one-piece book stand. So no big deal, but it's something that I have students can do in one day. And it's wonderful in that, well, several things. One, there's a wonderful painting in Paris at the Carnavalet, I think it is, of Marquis de Lafayette taking the oath to the new republic, I believe it is, and there's a little girl holding up the Bible on a stand identical to this for Rubo to swear his oath to the new republic. But what I like so much with the students, not only do they have all the things of the carving and the sawing and the technical issues and sawing down this way and that way, but I get after them about the surfaces. These surfaces here are smooth and flat, which is nothing to us today. Easy to make a shiny, flat surface. It's everywhere. Everywhere is shiny and flat. But when it had to be done by hand, this was an extraordinary thing to have. Something that was flat and shiny took a lot of effort to make. Now, here's the thing. On the underside, you see the hand sawing marks down there. This is what my students often say, okay, now I've got to smooth that off with a plane. Well, all that does is make it ordinary. These are the strokes of the saw that gave that texture. This is a rare surface. And this is something that Pai spoke about in the Nature and Art of Workmanship. These surfaces and what is rare and what is common. And so trying to keep saying, don't plane that, please don't plane that surface. You work so hard to create it. And it's wonderful. So a lot of wonderful things go into this. That's a one-day class. And I think the folks learn a lot from it. So
Sign me up.
What else have we got here? Another bit from Paris from the museum. I'm teaching the joints, how beautiful they can be. I'm going to open this up here. And you can see inside how that connects. You see the joints. So this is from Japanese joinery, a scarf joint, and just beautiful in itself, even though it's mechanical. And the idea was that this kind of joint had the flexibility to ride through a earthquake, connecting a long piece like that. Yeah. So you're right, just the aesthetics of utility is wonderful. Oh my, what else have I got? Okay, here we go. And I got to say, all right, and I'm going to share my weakness here is for clever items like this, like the dovetail. This is, of course, the dovetail that's dovetailed in two directions. You can see how it's, this can't pull back this way, nor can it lift up. So this joint has the unusual characteristic, it can never come apart. You can't lift it up, you can't pull it back. And that's the good thing. The bad thing is it can never go together. So it's tough. Oh, uh-oh. So it's called it's called a rising dovetail. It's not the absinthe speaking, no. It's this is a rising dovetail, and you see the way it works. It rides up into the space to fill it and looks like it's dovetailed there. So,
like 3D chess.
Yeah, and it carries on. You can do things like this to make a mallet that has two of them done in springy hickory, so that you can spring them in and feed it up in there. And you can see how this, again, they can't lift out that way, nor can they pull out that way. And so you have a mallet. So this is just, these are just clever tricks just to irritate other people. So that's my weakness right there. So, do you have any items like this at the museum? I mean, is it all art?
It's, what we do have contextually are some objects that came from the John Grass Wood Turning Center, which was, which actually is one street over where the center is located currently. And it was production wood turning. It was privately family-owned business from about 1850, late 1850s until 2004, and then the families decided to close it. But during that time, it was absolutely artisanal production wood turning. So everything from architectural elements such as banisters and restoration work to implements, like household implements like rolling pins, billy clubs.
Oh, how neat.
And the center does have a couple of billy clubs in its collection. Katie can jump in here too. Just everything that you can imagine that could be turned. And they actually had the business grew such that there were 2 floors, and so the engine that powered the lathe was on the bottom floor, and then the belts ran up to the upper floor where all the work was done. I mean, it was an immense operation, but still everything was done by craftspeople. It's an incredible.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, I wonder what it'd be interesting to see what the different kinds of wood were used, like for billy clubs, what they.
I believe our billy clubs, I think, are walnut, but there was a lot of work.
Walnut.
They used all local woods, including lignum vitae, and I mean, it just was really what the object demanded. They would do.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and that's what's so great. You look at it, say, now why this kind of wood? We've got just native wood. We've got 200 different types of, of workable wood in North America. And people know enough to choose the right one. It's interesting. Yeah. I've got one. It's not a billy club, but this is one, a maul that the students use with the froe when they're splitting their wood. And what I like, it's elm. And I like it accidentally, the grain. Let me see if I can show you that curve, the wonderful grain of the handle. And the only reason that's polished, it's like that other plane that we were looking at. Let me see if I can get that to focus. There we go. The only reason it's polished is because it's been through 1,000 hands pounding away there. And gosh, I love elm.
Yeah, and so is the roughness of the actual mallet, is that from use?
That's from use, and it wouldn't be like this but it is like this because of an emergency. We had one break, and I went and we were out where I live at the mill, and there's a lot of elm trees around. And so I cut a small elm and made this green. And of course, the green wood under the pounding wouldn't hold up. Had I made it and let it dry, it would not be quite so fractured as it is right now. But that's from going in immediately with green wood. You can see once it dried, the splitting stopped.
Yes.
And of course, you use elm. It's got because it won't split. That's what you use for wagon hubs of wagon wheels and so forth. Mm. Oh, it's wonderful. I am so sad there to see the ash trees and what's happening. They just hit where I live, and I'm trying to save these ash trees.
That's been quite a problem in this region.
Yeah, it's tragic, and I'm just sorry to imagine what the chestnut blight was when it hit. But to live through one of these things, to see the ash trees suffering is just terrible. Oh man.
Well, show us that long planer you were showing us before.
Let's see. Oh, the draw knife?
Yes.
Okay. Now this chair back here, this was made with just a draw knife. And so this is a draw knife here, but it has a special attachment on it. I've put a little camera on it, and let me see if I can't set this up for you. I'm going to pull up a piece of walnut. Handy, a happy little piece of walnut. Let's see if I can't set this here a little better. There we go. All right, I've got some walnut, and I'm going to work with the draw knife here, but I'm going to switch to the camera that's mounted here so that you can see what the draw knife sees. How are we doing there?
Perfect. Oh.
Okay.
I love those shavings.
Yeah. So you can see how this is with the bevel. I've got the flat of the draw knife up, and the bevel is down, so I can cut deep, as I'm doing now, or shallow by rocking the draw knife up. You can see how that works. Now, so this is kind of an intermediate tool. Let me see if I can go back here. I'll try a little bit more. Oh, no, that didn't work. Wrong one. Let's try that one. There we go. So now you see both of them.
And Roy, the purpose of mounting a camera to get a really detailed shot of this process is what exactly?
Let me go back here. I'm sorry, the purpose of that? For entertainment. I do
essential experience of watching shavings being made.
Yeah, and one of the things is nice. Remember what I do for a living? I'm a TV woodworker, and so what I've got to do is deliver something visual all the time, and so always trying to think, how can I share things that are often invisible? Like mortising, we're putting heavy glass on the front of a piece of wood when you go into it with a chisel, so you can see how things are working. And part of your job, if you're doing any of this stuff, is to show folks things that they couldn't see otherwise. That's how you earn your pay. And I don't know if you know the story, but as a TV woodworker, I learned my trade from my great uncle. He was a radio woodworker back in the 1930s. Grandpa Sam's Wood Shop of the Air, and people would tune in every Wednesday at 12:15 and listen to Grandpa Sam's Wood Shop of the Air. And But the wonderful thing is he never actually made anything. He just did the sound effects. It was great because, yeah, so he'd just say, all right, today we're carving that eagle up on top of our Chippendale High Boy. Look at that. That looks like it's about to fly off. I'm going to finish that up a little bit better. He'd just do the sound, and it was great. And people just, had in their minds what he was making. And so that's when people say they like radio better than television. The pictures are better.
Okay. First of all, I did not know that this was a family business.
No, that's a story that I tell. I love that. So I have a fanciful great uncle who taught me this as a radio woodworker. But I love the idea. But it's seriously, I've done. There were radio woodworking shows back in the 1930s, and
It's
people
not hard
very
to,
popular.
yeah, it's not hard to imagine when you think about, other public radio shows such as Car Talk, which
Yeah.
you don't see the car. I mean, it's a phenomenon.
Oh yeah. No, it's great. People like, and so that's it. That's why I have some of these gimmicks and things that just that draw people in. And as someone put it really well at Williamsburg, is to get people interested in things that they didn't know they were interested in before. They'll say, "Dang, that's pretty cool." Yeah, but again, the strongest thing I had at Colonial Williamsburg was, people. There's a place you visit, and my whole philosophy with all my crew was to just shut up and put tools in their hands. And so people coming, I put them right to work and get them with the draw knife, hand them a draw knife like that and say, I need this shaved down, you work over here. I need you on this lathe over here, you do that. And it was great. It was great because they've been talked enough to, they learn with these. If you can do it. And I think that's your first responsibility is get people's hands on things.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me started. I'm sorry.
No.
Let's see if let me show you something. We did just a clever tool, but I think it connects up a little bit with, yeah, here we go. This is this plane here. This was made by one of our instructors, Steve Slocum. And he teaches how to make this wooden plane. It's just a block of wood with a piece of steel in it. Beech wood with boxwood inserts there. But you can see it has one channel that has a cutter in it right there. And the other one is blank. And so what this is called a bead and follow, for lack of a better name. And what it'll do is cut the first bead like that. And then it tracks in that one and cuts the second one and tracks in that one and cuts the so you can keep cutting these beads and do this reading. Well, combining this reading with miters and stuff like this is a very fine decorative technique, but also I've learned that you can take that bead and then carve it into these little ball beads there. So the bead becomes an extra bead there. That's the woodworking adage, if you can't joint it, bead it. Oh, what a way. All right. Well, how's your audience holding up out there? Everybody okay?
Well, does anyone have any questions for, I haven't checked the chat yet. I will do that right now. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them right in. Don't be shy. And in the meantime, show us more of what you have back there.
Okay. Oh, I've got endless stuff here. Let's see. Joyce here. Let me get my...
Now, I have one question.
Yes.
Maybe it's because of the placement of the Van Gogh chair, but it seems to me that this looks, what I'm looking at now, and also the angle of the camera looks very much like the Woodwright's shop set.
No.
Is that a coincidence? Okay.
Except
you're not the same
no,
outfit.
I don't think so. But I am lucky. This is where I am. Oh gosh, I wish I had that picture. It's our school was actually in a very famous Dorothea Lange photograph taken in 1939.
Really?
If you were to search
Mhm.
Library of Congress, Dorothea Lange, 1939, Pittsboro, North Carolina, you would see where we are, this old store. And it's a wonderful photograph. But nevertheless, this place has a wooden floor.
Mhm.
It's great.
Mhm.
You imagine having to do this on a some other kind of floor, working in here with the tools. But that's what's enabled us to do to work as much as we have, having the floor in here. Uh, I've got something. This is there's a piece here. This is, now how many pieces of wood is that? Now this is not art in wood. This is based on the old Welsh love spoon tradition, and it can be art, but generally it was a thing people did. And there's the pliers again, all out of one piece of wood.
And why would you have pliers and a long link chain?
Well, it's just this is whittling. This is this is pre-Netflix America. This is what you did. Create things like this. And I have a story to tell about how my great uncle made this. This was actually done with an axe. He see, I don't have it in reach. Well, he did this with a big old felling axe like he'd used to chop down a tree. Did the entire thing. And of course, what happened was he was up in the hills, and one of them hoop snakes that has the stinger in the tail instead of fangs came rolling down the hill after him, stung the tree that was next to him. It was aiming for him, but he moved just in time. And that tree swelled and swelled up till it was huge, size of a school bus there. And he took his axe and chopped this shape out, out of that big old swollen up tree. And then as the sun went down and the venom dispersed, the wood shrank back down to what you see right here. So that's the way he done it.
That's a new kind of collaboration.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you can, and that's an old. Oh gosh, that was in Harper's in 1860. There's a thing, the legend of the hoop snake coming down, and there's all kind of folk jokes about that. Fellow had his hoe handle was bitten by a snake. A snake hit his hoe handle, and he built swelled up so much. The hoe handle swelled up so much that he built a hog pen out of that that swollen up timber, and the pigs were in there. And darned if the venom didn't start to disperse and the logs started to shrink down. They shrunk down so much they squoze the pigs through the center, and he had sausage for all that winter. So, let me see what else I've got here.
Well, I do have some questions.
Yes. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes. First is we have some technical questions. First, it's about Greenwood. And if you can talk a little bit more about your use of Greenwood and why you would use it.
I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh, it's about
So
Greenwood.
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, okay, let's bring that back. There you go. I'm sorry, what was the question again, please?
Sure. Why your use of Greenwood? So we use it a lot, and if so, why? Greenwood technique.
Because it's rare. In that people don't work with it. Their work is cut and dried, and I'm trying to connect folks with it. I don't expect they'll do it that much, but the same reason we use old hot hide glue melted in a pot, because if people are coming to learn from you, you better, they don't need to learn how to use dry wood so much. They've kind of got that. They don't need to know how to use white glue or yellow glue. They've got that. So if they're paying you money to learn something, it ought to be something different. So they learn here the the best analogy I say is, do you know the old music on original instruments people try and play, use the old trumpets, the old horns to get the sound that was there originally. Well, it's the same thing. Wood was done a lot with air-dried wood, green wood, and used to its advantage. And so that's what I'm trying to reconnect people with. So that's my excuse.
That works for me. And a sharpening question from
Yes.
and I'm just going to read it straight the way she wrote it.
All right.
Do edges need to be mirror finish, scary sharp, or sharp enough to do the job when you're sharpening?
Yeah, I understand that. It can be, there is a whole sharper than thou personality flaw you can get into, I think. You put on your white robe, and that's fine. This is what's so wonderful about woodworking, and you do it the way you like, whatever pleases you. I know folks that have to polish and have just sharpening to the point of vanity. And, but it's good. It's really good. I like it when it makes a huge difference in the work that you're able to do. Okay. So I would say there's how should I say, if do you go beyond sharp? No, because sharp is, I'll just conclude with this. I say, you can't buy sharpness, you can only rent it. It's like beer. So
Okay.
you get it for the job that you're doing. And of course, say, for example, you're planing a surface with a smoothing plane. You work that surface, but then for the final thing, you will polish that edge up, buff it, take out, get that final sharpness on the plane. You disassemble the plane, sharpen it for the final work, and then do the final surface. And that makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. But the sharpness is going to diminish as you work to bring down a surface. Mm. And so you sharpen and then do the final work with the ultra sharp tool.
Yes, yes. As somebody mentioned here in the comments, sharp for an axe is not the same as sharp for a carving gouge.
Quite right, yeah. And so it depends on the durability you need. I mean, you can make it much easier. There's two curves that cross. If you can imagine durability, how long that edge is going to last on one line, and the other, how easy it is to push. Well, the more acute the edge, the sharper that edge, the more acute the angle, say down to 15 degrees, it's going to be easy to push that tool. It's going to shear really well, but it's going to be down on the list of durability. It won't last long. So you make it blunt, it will last, but a long time it'll be up here and lasting, but it's not going to be an easy work. So what you want to do is kind of get where those two lines cross, because you're trading always durability for ease of work. That's what I say.
Okay. So we have a lot of questions about green wood. And I wonder, so I guess the first question that is kind of coming up that crosses this discussion is, it's a question about the classes you teach, which I assume are available on your website.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I assume you also include among that program listing greenwood, mm-hmm. Carpenter, or woodworking. Someone is writing here, doesn't greenwood split better than dry? And are there other benefits to working with greenwood?
It does, yeah. So that's one of the things. And how wonderful this is that it worked out this way. I mean, the planet could be set up totally wrong, but you get greenwood, it's swollen, it's heavy with moisture.
Yeah.
Half of its weight is water when you work with greenwood at the start. And then it's starting to dry. And as it dries, it shrinks up. It becomes denser, stronger, more durable on the surface, and lighter. so it gets lighter and stronger, and this is wonderful. But when it's green, it's easy to work, it's soft. So we're hewing timbers. So what I mean by that, of course, felling a tree, squaring it up with axes. You do that while the wood is green.
Yes.
The best analogy is like, so it's not really green woodworking, it's whole woodworking in this sense. It's like a blacksmith. The blacksmith strikes while the iron is hot. But that's at the original shaping. If you've ever done metalworking, you hit the hot iron on the anvil. But the final shaping is done with files and files and abrasives to get the final surface on it. Same with wood. Just like the blacksmith strikes while the iron is hot, woodworker hew while the wood is green, let it dry just as the blacksmith lets the iron cool, and then do your finishing work on the dry wood.
Yes.
And you find that this is just the perfect match. The reason I do this class, the introduction to hand tool woodworking with green wood on the first day, is I not only see how the tree is a partner with them because you're using the grain, you're splitting it out, and the tree decides that surface. By the second day, the wood has dried, and they're working with tools that are designed to eliminate, and techniques that eliminate the power of the grain to determine the shape. And that to me is whole woodworking. And you're connected back with the old tradition. And that's what I'm after.
Yeah, wonderful. And are there species of wood that are better to work with in this way than others?
Everything has even wood like we have a southern wood, sour wood. Well, it's great. The bees like it for honey. Sourwood honey is famous, but it grows all twisted and gnarly. And even it has a use. It's used for sledge runners, or when you'd have ox-pulled sledges. It just wears perfectly for the runners on these sleds that you would make to carry across the ground. So everything has a home that humans have found for it. What I'd always try and do, though, is have the folks work first with black walnut. Mm-hmm. First of all, because it grows abundantly around here. It grows in the creek bottoms. And I live in an old mill, and often the floods will bring walnut logs to me. I can catch them before they go downstream farther. And they work with that. It has the white sapwood and the heartwood, which teaches a lot to the students, but it also splits easily. It doesn't rot. It's real pretty, and it has that great smell. So I like to have folks work with black walnut a lot, but there's so many wonderful woods.
Yeah. That's the
You ought to start a museum about that.
Yeah, I know. Who should do that? That's also the title of your next TV series, I think.
The Wonderful World of Wood.
So many beautiful woods. Let's see. I love this question, so I have to ask, because a lot of people who are watching tonight are wood turners.
Yes.
And so Lawrence is asking, how would a burl have been used back in the day?
Oh, well, for one, I've seen a lot of burl mallets heads like that. So use the burl where the grain is all convoluted and knotted up. Carved and turned bowls. So I know the Native American tradition of carving burl bowls. Certainly used for veneer cuts and slices. But as a wood turner, basically bowls, I've turned burl bowls, and it's great.
Wonderful.
But yeah, mainly people use them as, in the whole form, it'd be used as striking instruments where the grain is all interlocked.
Sure. Wonderful question. Let's see. Do you have time? Do you have the strength and time for a couple more?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I ain't tired or proud.
Um, this is from Mike Thomas. He says, I'm just going to read the whole thing because it's very nice. Roy, thank you for this great talk. I grew up watching you in the 80s on PBS, and you, along with my uncle, were my biggest influences for my love and appreciation of the beauty of wood. One of my greatest joys is when my kids join me in the shop, but thanks to technology, those moments are not as often as I would like. I'm guessing that over the years, you have seen a decrease in children and teens wanting to be in the shop thanks to technology. But of the youth that you do see taking an interest in woodworking, what seems to be drawing them away from their devices? And I guess by that he means heads up experiences, meaning away
Ah,
from the phone.
uh, boy, I have, and it's just because of the folks I'm associated with, but the kids I know love making things. I've got a young fellow building a huge shop, hewing all his own logs. And I'm like, gosh, you have got a heck of a job. But that youthful energy making things. But then again, you've got to share it. If you don't share that coming down from someone, uh, I don't see how they'll ever connect with it. However, I should say, I grew up in Washington, D.C. and enjoyed I worked wood in the basement. I just came by it naturally, liked it, and had a shop and uh, loved making things since I was little, but nobody in the family did it. So it can arise spontaneously because I think it's deep inside there. And I guess what kids need, because it is inside them, they need a chance to uh, just express it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need the facilities like you need basketball court for sport. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this, working with the hand tools, we have a much younger crowd of students than schools that teach power equipment. The connection of working with your hands with hand tools has really spread among young people.
Mm.
And so that's just great. I think people are smart, they get it. And young people are working with their hands more and more. So I despair not.
I agree
And
with you,
good for you for teaching your kids. Yeah.
but
Oh,
not to be contrarian,
oh,
but or provocative, but I will say what I've noticed is that often some experience with digital production can lead kids into hands-on woodworking or hands-on craft
oh, yeah, I see.
processes.
Yeah.
It can be the thing that pulls them in very often. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. Well, how shall I say, the best of many worlds. For example, this, where is it? To make this chair with the draw knife, I scanned the picture and scaled it and worked on the computer, tracing all this out, and enjoyed that well enough. but I would say almost as much as doing the draw knife work. So these are great combinations that we can bring for a better world.
and just to uh, remind ourselves of the wisdom of David Pye once again, all of these fall somewhere on the continuum of the workmanship of risk. And,
Mhm. Yeah.
and so this back and forth relationship with the tools that we have and the expansion of the toolkit that we have enables us to do new things. But I think it's a myth or an enormous misconception to think that work that's being done in digital production, craft work that's being done with the use of digital production, doesn't involve a lot of hand working as well. And you mentioned finishing, no one blows a glass vessel and then leaves it, pops out of the annealer just as it is. There's always a series of very important craft processes that happen that involve cold working. Maybe it's sandblasted, maybe it's polished, but You know, in
Yeah.
every kind of craft practice, there is always a back and forth between the technology of it and the mind, the hand, and the heart in the words
Yeah.
of Rubo.
That's one thing I love about woodworking. Everybody has their different kits of tools, combinations of tools of power and hand, and just you find something that can match your your desire at the time so perfectly. And it's wonderful. I fuss at folks and just because for show, fuss at them for using a tape measure or a Phillips head screw. But you know, what is wonderful about it truly is that you can find your own expression in this artistry, and it's great.
Well,
Yeah.
I think also, and I think this is applicable to the center and what we do as well. The center means nothing if without this long history of tools and workmanship and practice. And you know, we are at one end of this trajectory, but we don't have an identity without this end. And so I think that's why I so value what you do. Because we need to have access to that history and to those practices.
It's great. It's a long heritage we have as artisans, as makers, and some are artists and some are artisans, and God bless us all. we, we need all the help we can get right now.
Always, always. Well, I just thank you so much for
Oh,
spending this evening with us tonight. This has been so much fun.
well, thank you. My pleasure. What a treat.
Oh, it's all ours. And I hope you come back and spend time with us again sometime soon, maybe when it's safer to
Uh,
travel. But
Sounds like a road trip. I got to head on up there.
hey, or we'll all come down to Asheville as soon as we can.
Excellent, excellent.
But thank you so much, Roy. And for everyone here tonight, you can find more out about Roy and the Woodwright School by checking out the website, which is pretty self-explanatory. I think it's like
You'll find it, yeah.
www.woodwrightschool.org.
Oh,
And just keep in touch. And thank you for spending time with the Center for Art and Wood tonight. You know, if you enjoy these programs, of course, we would love your help in allowing us to consider to produce them. And so if you feel it in your heart to make a contribution, thank you so much in advance. And join us again Thursday. I know that Gina Siepel is watching tonight because I see her on my set of squares. And Gina is going to be talking Thursday night, so we can't wait for that to happen. Come back and join us. So I'll leave you tonight. Thank you so much, Roy. It has been absolutely wonderful. And I wish you the best safety and health, and we'll connect very soon.
all right. May the grain be with you.
Yes, and also with you. I'm so glad you said it. Yay. Bye, everyone. Take care.